Hello again. In this part we are gonna create some masks that we are gonna constantly use as we move forward, and then I'm gonna create the grout for the tiles. So the first mask and the most important one comes from here. I'm gonna bring in an invert grayscale. We'll set this to false. This basically represents all the areas where we have tiles, and it does not contain any more informations like slopes or so. I'm gonna drag this down here and frame it, label this as mask of all tiles. The second mask comes from the start of our graph, from this threshold node. I'm gonna bring in another invert grayscale node. This time I'm gonna leave this as true. And if I zoom in here, you can see that this represents the grout area for the tiles. I'm gonna frame it and call it mask of grout area. And now I can move forward and create the grout. I'm gonna drag a line here, and I'm gonna bring in a vector warp, because the first thing I want to do here is to break the uniformity of these lines. Now let's work on this vector map here. I'm gonna bring in a cells 4. For the scale I'm gonna have 50. And I need another cells noise with a bigger scale, but instead of bringing in another cells, I will just use a transform node to give this a bigger size. I'm gonna drag down this cells 4 and delete this connection. And I will drag a line and bring in a transform 2D. Here at the parameters I'm gonna click this X2. I'm gonna click it twice. Now I need to blend this back with the original, so let's bring in a blend. I will keep the copy blending mode. And in order for this to properly blend, I need a mask. So I will bring in a histogram select. I want the contrast of it all the way up. Let's increase the range a bit, and I think this will work. So I'm gonna connect this to the opacity. And with this I get some variation for the warp node. Now in order to connect this to the vector warp, I will need a gradient map. So hit tab and bring in a gradient map. And here at the intensity, I'm gonna have something like 0.0005. And this will add a slight warp to these lines. Next I want to kind of damage these lines and create the illusion that the grout was shattered and its pieces scattered all around the place. For this I'm gonna take away a portion of these lines. Let's bring in a crystal 1 node. I'm gonna set the scale to 25. And I want another instance of this crystal 1, but with another scale. So I'm gonna bring in a safe transform. And I will tile this. And now I can blend these two and set the blending mode to max lighten. So I get some variation here in scale. And now I want to add in a levels to enhance the contrast. So I'm going to bring in a levels. If I click here to the values, I get the option to type in exact values. And I've gone through this process once, so I have some values here. I'm gonna type in 0.03 for the level in low and 0.15 for the level in high. Now I need a blend node. And I'm gonna subtract this crystal noise from the lines that I have here. And as you can see, if I remove some of these areas, it will make everything look much more realistic. Now that I have this, I can start and scatter the smaller pieces of grout. So I'm gonna start by duplicating this vector warp. I can add a dot here. And for the intensity of it, I'm gonna delete 1 0 here. So I have much more warp now. And then I will have two transform 2D nodes. So transform 2D. And I'm gonna duplicate this. And with this I will rotate these lines a bit. And at the second transform, I'm gonna have this rotate in another direction. Let's add a blend node here, and I'm gonna change the blending mode to max. Now I can use this setup that I've made earlier, and I'm gonna subtract this crystal from these lines also. Let's drag a line from here and bring in another levels, because I want to have some different values from this one. Let's enter these values, and I will have 0.015 here and 0.06. Now I get some more contrast. There is one more thing which I like to do here, and that is to use a transform 2D and rotate these lines. This way I get another seed here. So transform and rotate. And then I need a blend node here. And I'm gonna choose subtract. And this is what we get. Now I'm gonna frame these two. This I will call Grout middle area. And this one Grout scattered. Let's blend these two together. I'm gonna set this blending mode to max. And as you can see, we get the illusion that these small pieces were scattered here after the damage happened. With this blend node, I have one issue, and that is that some of these lines intersect. I can solve that by creating a mask for the middle lines and tell this blend node to not place any of the scattered pieces there. First I'm going to select these two lines and press X to reverse them, and then I will have a bevel node coming from here. I'm going to set the distance to something like 0.01. Now I need an invert grayscale node here. And I will bring in a levels to enhance the contrast here at the margins. Here at the values I'm gonna type 0.8. If I connect this to the opacity masks, and this doesn't work yet because I need to reverse these connections again, so I'm gonna press X. And now if I take a closer look, you can see that we don't have any more intersections in these middle areas. Now I want to add some imperfections to these lines, so I'm gonna bring in a slow blur. And I think I'm gonna create a new clouds 2 noise because the first one is really far away. And here at the properties, I'm gonna increase the samples all the way up. Set the intensity to something low, like 0.03. And I'm gonna change the mode to min. And the last thing which I will do here is to add in a levels node and enhance the contrast for this. I'm gonna go here to values and type in 0.1 here. Okay, so let's blend this with the tiles that we have here, and let's see how does this look. I will move everything here, then create some space. Then I need a blend node. I'm gonna choose add for the blending mode and set this to something like 0.05. And if I take a look here, what I want to do next is to remove the grout from the tiles. I want to have the grout only on the floor. So I'm gonna go back to the grout and I'm gonna bring in a blend node. And a bit earlier we created the mask of all tiles. So I'm gonna use this and mask out the areas where I have the tiles. So let's drag a line from here and connect this there. I'm gonna change the blending mode to subtract. And if we take a look now, the grout gets scattered only on the ground. Now I can frame everything from here and call it grout. For now I'm gonna remove the grout from here. So I'm gonna press Shift and reroute. And we are gonna blend back the grout a bit later on. And the reason I created it now is because I need it in the next part where we are gonna create some scattered pieces.